in your life, was there anything that you can say was a serious challenge, which can help others who pass through that too? Anything you can give an insight?
For me, I think, in just beginning with the verse in the Bible that says, bad company corrupts good character. And to me, what that means is we have to be careful of who we surround ourselves with, because ultimately that can play a big part in our character and who we become ultimately. For me, growing up, I hung around kids older than me, and as far as back as I can remember, even in elementary school, hanging around with certain people exposed me to things at a very young age. And I saw how that, even after I got saved, the certain patterns that I had because of certain people that I hung around with continued even as I was saved. And so for a long time, it keeps you in this sort of double life. You're struggling with these things, but you still want to live for the Lord. So for me, ultimately I had to overcome them with, of course, the help of others and mentors and, even counseling and things like that. But ultimately what I would want the young ones to understand is the quicker you can break away from these things, the better. And so sometimes, including someone to be able to help you, it's important, because ultimately it does play a part in your overall character. Not only that, but also in who you want to become, because it can hinder you from being able to study, because you have so many things that are pulling you back and forth, even in your mind. You almost become unstable. And so for me during college, I got into accountability with my fraternity brothers who were Christians, and we'd hold each other accountable and say, how are you doing in these things? How are you doing in that? And so they build you up. I was studying biology at Texas Tech University. One of the professors that we had was very difficult. And when people ask me, how'd you get past his class? And I always joke with my brother, and I tell him, I think I prayed more than I actually studied for that class. And I wasn't joking, because at times it seemed like I had to pray before I could even study, because I felt like if I don't pray and I'm dealing with these things in my mind, it may distract me from being able to study effectively. And so at times I just had to put my biology book away, grab my Bible and sit and read and just, become at peace first. And then I could grab my biology book and actually, take in what I was studying. What I would say to anyone who's, dealing with anything, doesn't matter what the addiction, it could be drugs, pornography, it could be, issues with dating and things like that. I think for the life of a Christian, you do have to make certain sacrifices, but ultimately it starts with, being able to open up to someone else and to tell them, hey, I'm dealing with these things. And so it will help you, because ultimately that's when, you can have a peace of mind, because it doesn't, anything that you're dealing with can mess with you mentally, emotionally, physically, psychologically, just in so many different ways. And it's sad to see, especially with the young ones, where they suddenly, they seem fine, all of a sudden they fall out. And you have to wonder, what was it? Like, what came in their life that pulled them away? Because it seems like they're going fine, but all of a sudden it's like this hidden thing that just derails them completely. And so it affects everything that they do as far as schooling and their job, their work. And it doesn't matter, what it is. And we're not talking about college necessarily, because not everybody needs to go to college to be successful nowadays. You just make a YouTube channel and you can become successful, if you have that gift, of course. But ultimately, whatever it is that you're passionate about, whatever your desire is, how you want to serve the Lord, all of those things can be taken away or derailed in many regards, because you didn't, identify these things as a problem, or you didn't seek, guidance or mentorship or counseling with anyone. So I definitely encourage anyone who's struggling with any of that to seek out help first, and then, be able to focus on your schooling and focus on your career path or whatever it is that God has for you.
Yeah, so I've seen firsthand how really one's environment can affect a person's the direction they're going. And I just looking back at my life, I remember a point in which I was at a school that wasn't the best of schools out there. It was really not too great of a school, to be honest, but
that's your middle school.
I was in middle school, and I was for the first time in my life, I was surrounded by people that really didn't necessarily have a respect for others. They would, speak back to the teacher. They didn't care about, their grades at all. They didn't care about conduct. It was and that was very foreign to me. Like, I had never really, coming from elementary school, like, everyone's very, proper and, like, showed a lot of respect to the teachers. And so I found, going from that environment to this, instead of being like a force of change to this environment, I started to conform to the environment that I was in. I started changing the way I spoke, like, disrespectful to the teachers. And it's really amazing. Like, it's really interesting looking back to see, like, that transition. Just, you would think that someone's character, is set, right? But you change their environment, the person can completely change, in essence. And so I thank God for my parents. They're so wise, but they saw the change, like, tremendously. Like, my relationship with my parents was horrible during this time, like, really bad. And so thank God for their wisdom, because after that year it was done, they took me out of that school. And
you stayed only one?
I stayed 1 year, and I was out. And the new environment that I went into was more, very structured, and was a better environment. And I reverted back to kind of, being more respectful. So I've seen firsthand, like, when the Bible talks about bad company corrupting good character, it is absolutely true. Who you surround yourself with can dictate the direction of your life, can dictate who you become as a person. And so it's important, like, if you know that someone isn't the best influence in your life, I mean, I'm not saying to cut them off completely. Of course, you want to still show them the love of Christ, but they should not have a hold in your life. Like, there has to be a distance. Either you lead them to Christ, or you have to, or they will lead you. It's one or the other. They will lead you, or you will lead them. And so you've got to kind of make sure that people that are in your life are good, that they have good influence on you. And if not, it can really, like I said, play like a really bad role in where you're trying to go.
Yeah. One last thing I would add is, and the opposite of that is also true. So bad company can corrupt good morals, and ultimately it will if you hang around bad company. But also the opposite, which is the scriptures tells us, it says that iron sharpens iron as a man sharpens his friend. And those that you surround yourself with, if they're iron, you'll be able to sharpen each other. So you can't use wood to sharpen iron. It has to be a similar sort of material to be able to sharpen it. So what that's talking about to me is, it's talking about how you can have another brother in Christ to sharpen you whenever you're fellowshipping together and communing together and learning, to grow together and keeping each other accountable. And a big part of that for me was that happened in college. And so to be able to be surrounded with other believers who wanted the same thing, to be able to grow in the Lord and to serve the Lord, that helped me tremendously. And so I'd encourage anyone who's going off to college, choose your friends wisely. Use that as a new beginning point. You can make all the mistakes. Maybe there was a lot of mistakes in middle school or high school, like we were talking about. But when you start over, don't look at 18 or 19 when you're going to college as though it's a chance to just live carefree away from your parents and do whatever you want. If you truly are trying to seek and follow Christ, use that as an opportunity to grow and to choose your friends over, and to start over, and to put yourself around you people who are made of iron, literally, those that want the same things, to be able to sharpen each other for the Lord. So that would be my encouragement to anyone who's going off to college or is already in college. So
I think you've heard him say that school is not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree, Betty? What's your input on that?
If you asked me this question about a year ago, I probably would give you a different answer than I'm giving you now.
Okay.
At one point, I really did believe that was the way. And now just, I don't know, I have kind of a different opinion on it. Like, if you would ask me like a year ago, as I mentioned, like, would you force your kids? Like, is it a requirement for my kids to go to school? I'd say for sure. I mean, what else are they going to do? But now I do see that maybe school isn't the path that God has for everyone. But on the flip side, I also think that, eating from the bread of idleness and not working hard isn't an option either. So if you do find that there is another path aside from school, like, do it. Pray about it. Seek God's. Seek God about it. Seek others. Some wise counsel, and go for it. School isn't the only, and I know that's very hard to hear, like, especially in the Habesha community. It's very difficult, like the Habesha parents. I mean, that's like blasphemy to them, but I mean, it's I think for me, I've found that is very true. Like, there are certain people that, find a passion in something else and can be very successful on that route. And they haven't gone to school. And so it just depends on the person. Like, if it is your path, then if schooling is your path, by all means, go for it. It's a great means of, being able to make a career and do all that stuff. But if school isn't kind of something that you're passionate about, find something that you are passionate about and pursue that and have a plan. But to me, school is not the
only way.
The only. But
everybody should be working hard. Do you agree on that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't
by school, she's talking about college. So I think by law, I think you have to finish high school, or you have to get your
some sort
Do you agree about that?
Yeah, I think.
Or you get your GED or something. I think you have to get something. But once you set the base for that, after you're 18 is what we're talking about. For some people, they go through trade schools, colleges, different training programs. Being idle is not an option. Obviously, you have to figure out a way to provide for your family, for yourself, for just a means of living. But as far as like how you do it, I think God has different plans for everybody. And I think it's finding what gift He's given you, what passion you have, and what route, what plan you are putting together to be able to achieve that goal and that dream that God has given you. So, but definitely, we don't want to say idleness is an option. That I don't think that's an option for anyone. Ultimately, it's finding that purpose and going after it, regardless of whether that includes going to college or a separate route. But